Welcome back to ValTV, everyone. I am your host, Val Neighbors, and with me today I have Patricia the Passion Professor. We're going to talk about sex and your teen daughter. So Patricia, I would like to welcome you to ValTV. So Patricia, the topic of sex is one that makes people a little uneasy in and of itself, but the topic of sex and your young daughter is one that would make a lot of people's skin crawl. And there was a recent study that came out as an article in one of the publications talking about girls and puberty. Would you share with our viewers a little bit about that study?
So it is important. This came out of Northern California, and it was published in the New York Daily News, that young girls are reaching puberty earlier and earlier. So that is really important, that you're getting ahead of that as a parent and not waiting until they're feeling all those emotions and all those hormonal stirrings that go with puberty. Not talking to your children about sex does not help them make the decisions that you'd hope that they would make for their future.
And Patricia, a lot of parents are very uncomfortable having the conversation about sex with their child. And I know in my household, when the boys come to me and they might say something, there might be a topic of sex, I'm like, ooh, no, go talk to your father, only because obviously I'm a female and things are a little different in that world. What is a piece of advice that you could share with our parents who are viewers to help them maybe have that conversation, initiate that conversation with their child?
So if you have not been open with your children about human sexuality from toddler age, as soon as they could speak, those are a great time to start introducing it, and especially they're having annual physicals, and now the vaccines associated with HPV open a huge doorway for parents to talk about what does constitute sexual activity, how do you actually get sexually transmitted diseases, and really the whole conversation about sex without it having to be accusatory, asking them what kind of sexual activity they have or haven't engaged in, that whole last year at band camp thing. You kind of want to head that off at the pass. So this could happen in conjunction with your physician, though I would say you may want to have that conversation with your physician before you involve your child.
So what you're really talking about is the vaccine, Gardasil and Ceravax, which I believe is the equivalent to Gardasil. You're talking about these as vaccines, so, again, understanding that you're not Dr. Ruth yet, and you're not Dr. Oz, what are the pros and maybe the cons of, if you're a parent, of getting your child vaccinated at such a young age for HPV with one of those two vaccines?
So unfortunately what happens with the vaccine is probably the girls, because it's been focused on females up until now, though it has been approved for boys as well now too, is really that the people getting it are probably not the people that really need it. The people that are getting are those girls that are coming from probably better educated families with really good insurance, and they have a better access to sex education and information, where children who aren't in those atmospheres are usually the ones more likely to have unprotected sex and to have sex earlier. So that is the problem with that whole idea. Now, if you're going to consider the vaccine, and everyone will have to, because chances are your physician, or even if you're going through a public health system, they're going to suggest it to you, especially if your child's a girl. You're going to have to make a decision. It's not a mandatory vaccine, so it's not like MMR or any of those things where you need a note. However, they are recommending it for girls from 9, actually 11 and 12 are the prime ages, but they recommend in some situations as early as 9. So if you're going to use that vaccine, you definitely want to have a conversation about sex, because they're trying to give them the vaccine before they become sexually active.
Well, and it's interesting because my 11-year-old son had his yearly checkup with his pediatrician back in August, and they talked to us about having him receive the Gardasil vaccine, and both his father and I decided, no, he doesn't need this. I mean, he's 11 years old. So it's kind of interesting. It's mind-blowing to me that at 11 this would be a topic of discussion.
If you are going to opt out of the Gardasil vaccine, because it does prevent sexually related cancers, primarily cervical cancer is what it was targeted at. 70% of cases are directly related to HPVs number 16 and 18, which the Gardasil vaccine protects against those, as well as 6 and 8, I believe. So there's actually 70 different variations of HPV. They manifest mainly in warts, genital warts, which are obvious and probably the grossest part of it for young people. However, the most dangerous part is the long-term cancer implications that can have. Everyone at some point in their life will probably have HPV. Most people don't realize that. You can be a carrier and not even know that you have it or give it to your partner. So that's why teaching our children to ask people about their sexual history, and teaching especially young girls, if you're not comfortable asking someone about their sexual history, you probably should be keeping your panties on, right?
That is true. That is true.
Right.
Patricia, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today on our show and talking about not only having a conversation with your teen daughters about sex, but also HPV, the pros about, getting vaccinated for Gardasil and things like that. So I thank you very much for coming here, sharing some great information.
Thank you for having me, and hopefully your viewers learned a lot that they needed to talking to their daughters.
I'm sure they did. Thank you. Well, everyone, that is a wrap. Thank you for joining us on our show today, and we will see you next time on ValTV. Have a great one.